Good day, viewers. Today we have a 2008 Toyota RAV4 Sport, and the customer complained that the battery was going dead or they were having difficulty starting it. They tried to boost it and it wouldn't go with the boost. And I'm not sure how they got it here because it was obviously driven here. They dropped it off and left and didn't come in and talk to me. So I've got the scan tool hooked up to it. There's no warning lights on when I drove it in the shop. So let's have a look at the codes that I pulled out of it. So what strikes me as odd is that I've already ID'd this vehicle and there's no codes in the engine, transmission, body, cruise control, which could account for the battery going dead, but I would think if there was low voltage, we'd have a code in one of these modules for low voltage, and I don't see any. Now I do have this push switch key unlock warning switch in the immobilizer, so I'm going to have to find out what that pertains to. I'm not sure if this has got a remote car starter on it. It could have something to do with the remote car starter. Is that related to this no crank condition? The way the customer described it to me when I was texting them was that the battery was dead and it wouldn't go with a boost. And they said the battery was low because when they put a battery charger on it, it showed something on their charger, but I'm not sure. Now, the other thing that gets me is all of the misfires have run, all of the monitors have run and passed, so the battery hasn't been dead or been disconnected recently. So I'm starting to lean towards a starter problem, but I'm going to look at this B2780 and see what causes that code. So here's that B2780. It says key unlock. This is not push button start. So it says key unlock warning switch malfunction. The DTC is output if the transponder key ECU does not detect that the unlock warning switch is on, even when the ignition switch is on. Under normal conditions, the unlock warning switch is on when the ignition switch is on. Doesn't say what it does when it sets this code. Unlock warning switch on is not detected with the ignition switch on. Trouble area, transponder key ECU, unlock warning switch, and wiring harness. But I'm wondering if this looks like a key in the ignition type thing, and I'm wondering if this has got an aftermarket car starter. So I'm looking at data in the immobilizer system, and it shows the key switch is on and the ignition switch on. Now, I don't see any evidence of an aftermarket car starter, like there's no push button lockout switch under the hood. And there's nothing attached to the key, but they may have given me their spare key or taken the extra keys off the key ring. So I'm going to turn the key off and take the key out of the ignition and see how this changes. Key off. Key back in the ignition. Key off, key out of the ignition. So I think that might be a code set if there's an aftermarket car starter. So I'm going to give this customer a call because it seems to be working fine now. I'm going to clear this code. You know what? I've worked on this before, scanned it before, so I'm going to look at the history and see if that code was in history. So I've cleared the codes out of it. Let's look at the vehicle record, because I keep records of every vehicle that I scan. Last time I scanned this was 3/9/20 to 17/20, so 3/9/20. Let's look at that report. Today's report is 11/7/21. And let's just see if that code was in the immobilizer system before. No, it doesn't show anything. But I doubt it's got anything to do with this no crank condition. It doesn't mention anything about it, and there's no cases on it. It would be nice if the service literature would tell us, you know, what to expect. Key in the ignition. So this is just basically a key in the ignition switch. Some manufacturers will give you the the response that the ECU would default to when this code is present. Well, I'm going to talk to the customer, see if I can get some more information. So I was looking at the electrical diagram and I called the customer and I just got off the phone with them, and they do have a car starter in the vehicle, which they didn't leave me the transmitter for. So that would account for that key in the ignition switch fault code. Now they said the car would randomly not crank and it would not go with a boost at that time, but they simply waited several minutes and it went. So it sounds like a worn out starter, worn brushes in the starter, but unless you catch it in the act, here's the starter circuit here. So it's basically a conventional starter circuit from a 30 amp fuse through the ignition switch, through the starter relay to the S terminal, which is labeled B here on the starter. And that supplies power to the hold in and pull in windings in the starter solenoid, which starts the magic. Now the starter relay is controlled on the positive side by the engine control module. So the engine control module needs to see it in park or neutral. There's a park neutral switch. And I imagine the engine control module also needs to see a correct immobilizer signal from the immobilizer system. Now those systems would set fault codes if the transponder or immobilizer was malfunctioning. And if there was a low battery voltage problem, we should have multiple codes and multiple controllers for low battery voltage. Or if the battery actually went dead, I would expect the maintenance monitors not to have run in past. So given all of that, I'm starting to lean strongly towards a starter. I've tried it like a dozen times now, and it's starting every time. I'm going to find this starter relay and check the pins and terminals on it and have a look at the actual starter motor itself. Well, you'd think they would put it under the hood, but they got two fuse panels under the hood, one on the right side, one on the left side, and they put the starter relay under the dash. Imagine that. So I'll show you where that starter lives. Behind the battery, look straight down. Right in the center of the screen is the starter solenoid. That blue wire right in the middle of the screen is the control wire to the starter. I've tried this thing a dozen times now. I've tried it in neutral. Now I did ask the customer if they tried switching the gear shifter to neutral, and that's something you should always try. If your vehicle won't crank, try putting the shifter in neutral, or try wiggling the shifter, take it out of park and put it back into neutral, put it in reverse and back to park, because it could be a neutral safety switch problem, and that might help pinpoint the cause. This is easy to diagnose if it wouldn't crank right now, but now that it's cranking every time, I'm going to try to back pin that blue wire down there and connect the test light to it. So once you take the upper air cleaner and the air induction hose and the lower air filter housing out of the way, you can get your hand down there and back pin that blue wire. I've got it connected to a test light here, and that light should come on every time I start the vehicle. Now on occasion I've actually left a test light like that in the vehicle and driven it for several days, till the one time when you start the vehicle and it doesn't crank, and you note whether the light is on or not. Because if the light comes on and the starter doesn't respond, then you have a problem with the solenoid, likely worn out brushes. Given the way it's been failing, I'm leaning towards just a simple starter problem. This thing has got 250,000 kilometers on it, so it's original starter. Let's see what one is worth. Okay, I'm going to try this thing this morning while watching that test light. Of course, it's not going to act up. Aha! Aha! Success! Turning the key. And as you can see, the test light lights, so that means it needs a starter. Boy, it's nice to catch it. So we're going to replace this starter assembly. The battery cables and connections are pretty easy to get to with the air induction system out of the way. There's one bolt here, as you can see, but the other one is down underneath there. Might be able to access it. Can't get it from underneath because the transaxle's in the way, and I really don't want to take this battery tray out, so I'm going to try to get that one bolt. We'll see what we can do. So I managed to crack that forward bolt loose with a flex-headed ratchet and a 6-inch extension, and then I'm using the air ratchet to remove it. The electric ratchet to remove it. So I've got it out, so hopefully the starter will come out of there now. So there's the starter out. There's a release tab on here, and there's a clip on the harness that you have to release to pull the harness away because the starter hits this bracket here, right there. And then pull it straight back, tilt it up, and then get it into this area and then pull it up backwards. So you definitely can remove the starter with just taking the battery tray out. It's a bit of a challenge to get at this one bolt here, but we should be good now we wait for the starter. So there's the new starter reinstalled. Cleaned the positive cable eye with a Rolox sanding disc, and I'm cleaning the ground on the engine block too, just be proactive. I'm sure it wasn't a problem, but we're here. It's one bolt, so why not do it? Definitely, if you remove a ring terminal for any reason, I strongly recommend to take the 5 minutes that it takes to clean it, because it'll save you headaches in the long run. Here's another failure location on these starters, this braided motor strap that goes from the solenoid to the actual brushes inside. It'll corrode and fail open one day, and you'll have a no crank, no click, no sound from the starter. There's 2 windings in the solenoid, and they both need to energize. One grounds through the motor terminal, and if that fails open, then it won't grind, it won't crank, it won't do nothing. So I put dielectric grease on this connection to keep the moisture out, and we're ready to reconnect the battery. Okay, so we're going to try it. That's a beautiful sound. Check engine lights on because I got the mass airflow sensor unplugged. Okay, so let's put the air induction system on and clear the codes. And that's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm going to scan this with this ThinkDiag app. And let's go back. Load the app. 16-pin DLC, North America. Wonder if it's going to ask me all kinds of weird questions that I don't know the answers to. Well, it pulled the VIN, so it should decode it. Retrieve the vehicle mileage. Now searching, checking, I guess it's building a controller list. I'm pretty impressed with this ThinkDiag app so far. This is a 4-wheel drive, I believe. Okay. Okay. Should have a mass airflow sensor fault code and current or history. Health report. Let's see how long it takes. It's fairly quick. One fault in the ABS, VSC, traction control. One fault in the 4-wheel drive. 81%, 88%, 94%. Now, I was playing with this earlier on an 01 Camry. So we got 6 DTCs in the engine, 1 DTC in the ABS, and 1 DTC in the 4x4 system. And if I click on report, it'll give me a report of those fault codes. Mass airflow sensor, intake air temps, part of the mass airflow. Engine control system malfunction. So I can click on either one of these red bullets and it'll tell me what the codes are. So the ABS is not liking the fact that the engine light is on. mass airflow, intake air, four-wheel drive, engine control system malfunction. All right. Back up and clear DTCs. Yes. As I said, this is a pretty capable little tool for the money. A lot of people are upset that it's like a $40 annual fee to register the software. Well, it is an Android app, but it's not a simple app. There's a lot that goes into the programming. So, and these are all of the controllers that we can get into: engine, cruise control, ABS. Let's see what we can do in the immobilizer. See, most scan tools, Bluetooth phone-based scan tools, will read fault codes, clear fault codes, and look at data, but very few will do any kind of actuation tests. I just clicked on that. Or special functions, transponder code erase, key registration, all keys missing, auto registration closure. So I'm not going to screw with this because I don't want to cause a problem. Anyways, just a little bonus. Thanks for watching.